we got to get out of our own way. Stop living in a bubble. You are not everything to everyone, right? As a leader.
Yep.
Don't be the smartest person in that echo chamber, right? Because we don't win that way. For me, again, healthy habits of, if you want to build a phenomenal team, and I don't care what industry or company you're trying to scale, if you don't take the time to embrace and appreciate and embrace your shortcomings, right? So it's, what can I do better? You need to ask that question, but you need to also be prepared for the answer and be okay with it.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Don't Do That podcast. I'm your host, Kelly Waltrich, and I am here with my friend, Marwa Zakharia today. Side note, I just found out I was saying her last name wrong as long as we've been friends. So that's a fun turn of events as we launch into this podcast. Guys, I feel like everybody in this industry needs someone to bounce ideas off of, to tell them that they're wrong when they're wrong, to tell them that they're crazy when they're crazy, and to give them a pep talk when they need it most. And Marwa, you have been that person for me for many years. So I want to thank you for joining me today, and also for all that comes with playing that role in my life.
Likewise. And in your defense, first, thank you for having me. And in your defense, we both agree that I don't think you've ever verbalized Zakharia ever. So in your own head, you were saying it wrong, but from my perspective, you got it all right. And that's all that matters, right?
Oh my
It's
gosh.
every letter in the alphabet between my first name and my last name. So it is not an easy feat.
Amazing. So Marwa, give all of our listeners a quick overview of your background, how we became friends, and sort of what are you up to today that we should all be aware of and thinking about?
Loaded question.
Yes, a big one.
So started my career just being in everything, spreadsheets and scaling and all of this and strategy. Those are the things that excite me, right? So those are like the three triple whammies of a business nerd definition, right?
Yep.
So if you want to give me a title, that would be the most appropriate. I love to fix things. I love people more than anything else. So I'm not an industry specific individual per se. I am a people specific individual. And that's how I've operated my entire career. I've been in everything from banking, technology pretty much been the underlier in all of it. And then I went to one of the largest formaldehyde producers in the world, if you can believe that. So chemical, hard hat and steel toe boots, walking the plants, also managing and leading the technology division, and then moving into fintech and in between pharmaceuticals. So I've been in many different spaces, but the core of all of it is I'm a people person, right? I am a great leader, and I feel like I'm a great leader because I lead as a team. I don't lead as lonely at the top, which I'll get to later if, that's one of my pet peeves, if you will. So, if you find great people, you can teach a skill set. You cannot teach motivation, you cannot teach drive, but you can always teach a skill set. And it's not everything is for everyone, but you just have to learn to navigate that and see through, this is the right team. You're going to celebrate them, and let's move forward. So my most recent position was CEO of Assetbook, which was an extremely challenging and extremely rewarding role and company. I would say it's probably the team that I am most proud of. They are incredible. I've had people from oil and gas, from technology, from finance divisions, engineering, all over the country, all overseas, and everything in between. And they are one of the most talented individuals I've ever met. And also, it gave me the opportunity to meet you, where you helped us tremendously. Intentionally is a powerhouse team. And Assetbook was off the map, and you put us back on the map with a vengeance. So I'm very grateful for you and your team, and Intentionally.
That's so nice. I love how you love your team. I feel like you and I are very similar in that. We try to find great people and keep them forever. And there are a lot of outside forces that you have to battle. when you're trying to make that happen. And I feel like, I tell people every day that the marketing piece of it is easy, right? Like I could do that part in my sleep. It's the people that keeps you on your toes, right?
I don't know about marketing being easy, but that's why we hire experts like yourself, because I would never personally make that statement. But we are all grateful for you. That's for sure.
Oh. So I feel like one of the other things that I think everyone should know about you, I met my husband at work, and you have had a very long working relationship with your partner. And so I would love to hear more about that. Like, how do you make that work? I feel like we need to talk about that dynamic a little bit, because I'm always in awe, because I think to myself every day, if Steve and I still work together, we would not still be married. There's just no way. You've met
I think,
Steve.
yeah, I love Steve. I think Steve is a wonderful man. He's a patient man, similar to my husband, who happens to be a very talented CTO as well, who I hired way back in the day. So that's how we met, right? I was working for Wilmington Trust at the time, now M&T Bank, and I was leading the technology and HR side of things, and had to meet these awkward, minimally speaking engineers and see, hey, are you a good fit for us? And that's how I met Miguel. Interestingly enough, fast forward, I did leave the bank 5 or 6 months later. We didn't start dating until a year after that. And I have always been of the mindset, don't put your eggs in one basket. Don't be everything to your spouse. You need your own healthy space. And I didn't take my own advice, obviously, because about 12 years into the game, into the marriage, into different companies that I worked for, I somehow got finagled into taking a look at Assetbook and seeing what I can contribute from a consulting perspective that later dubbed me CEO, right? And then I had my husband at dinner conversations introducing me as his boss, which was pretty comical, because I don't refer to myself as a boss to anyone, but it did offer a chuckle for most people.
Oh my gosh.
And that actually was I would say, with Assetbook, with all of its challenges, it really unified us. And yes, dinner conversations were always about work, I'm not going to lie, but it was something that excited me, and it also kind of re-energized him and the engineering team that, hey, somebody's coming in and shaking things up, and that somebody happens to be a person I'm married to, but not between the hours of 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. That was the rule, right? So he was never referred as my husband. He was Miguel, the CTO of the company, and business as usual. There is the challenging times of separating the two, right? When I get I don't want to talk about work anymore. And I'm like, well, can we talk about one more thing? Just one more thing? Because, I'm that person, the lack of patience and wanting to just get it done.
Yeah.
So it's been an interesting dynamic, but I will say I'm very grateful for it. It turned out way better than I thought.
That's amazing.
That's for sure.
So Steve is my secret shopper. I think I told you that before, but I send Steve in to review all the technologies that want intentionally to do promotion for, to make sure that it makes sense. And it cracks me up, and he's very good at it. And I like to think of him as an employee here, although I don't think Mill Creek would go for that. So he's a pseudo employee here.
He's great, though. Secret shopper is a perfect title for him. I think he is very much, he's unassuming, but then he's very good at what he does. He's very good, leading operations and the things that he has been tasked with and challenged. That's a perfect secret shopper for you. Right?
Yeah,
I need a secret shopper.
You need a secret shopper for sure. I mean, I could do that for you. Send me in. I'll be your wingman.
Right,
let me know.
I know. I love your perspective on things, because you're raw and to the point and honest. That I think that's what everyone loves and respects the most about you. And that's the only way it works, right?
Yes, I think
putting
you and
on the CEO hats just doesn't work. We're all things and we're not all things, and we're aware of that.
Yeah. So let's give everybody a glimpse into like the pep talks that you give to me. Let's keep it reasonable for our audience here, but give a glimpse into the pep talks that you give me, and probably to many other women in our space, in terms of confidence and negotiation. And I mean, we've had countless of these things. And I feel like you are such a person on my shoulder. I'm not sure if it's the good one or the bad one or a combination of both. But I feel like it's the truth. Like, we all need people who are going to say, like, hey, get it together. You're making a bad decision here. Or, hey, don't say that. You texted me that today. Like, get your, be confident, own it. So, like, I talk a little bit about how that came to be, and because I know you're doing that for so many people.
So it's really important to me to see others succeed, right? I've never been the stage person, meaning when Assetbook became successful, that is a huge win for me because of the incredible team that I have. It's not because of me. I am one person, right? I am one person that is very aware. I will help lead the ship, but without all of you, I can't do it. Women especially have an issue or take issue with accepting credit, praise, compliments, right? We tend to just dilute it and say, "Thanks, but it wasn't me, it was, somebody else," or, "Oh, I only helped one part," No, and you're right, that's why I texted you this morning. Accept and embrace the wins because you did this, right? You did this, and part of you is building a phenomenal team, right? I know for a fact because I've had dinner with a lot of your leaders and everybody in between I've worked with in some capacity and at some point, and they all love you genuinely, right? And when you have a culture of individuals that truly believe in your mission as much as you do, stake in the game or not, right? Whatever
Yeah.
that looks like, because compensation becomes secondary. But women, I feel we're not used to being in the spotlight. We're not used to being told, "Hey, great job, you did this." It's
Yeah.
always I hear it and then I catch, and I have to speak up and say, "No, no, there is no buts," right? Say thank you and move on.
Yeah.
You did this. You did
Yeah.
this and you did this incredibly. And a lot of people that are listening to this podcast, they're also aware. Don't do that, but do this. Do what Kelly did, right? Kelly did a lot of things great with her team. No one is saying alone, but accept that win because this podcast is phenomenal and intentionally is phenomenal.
I feel like sometimes it's so much easier to take the criticism, and that's such a weird thing. I think it's a woman thing. I think that's like what we roll with. And for me, that's always been like, I want to hear the things I can fix
Mhm.
versus like, don't the good things like I'm rolling with, but I want to know the things that I can fix. And I feel like our leadership team here has all tried to ground ourselves in, like, let's take a moment and celebrate the wins before we roll to the next thing, because it's so easy to not do that. And I think in terms of leadership, I definitely need a reminder of that on an often basis, because I will just roll right on, check it
Right.
off and roll right on. Um,
But you're unique. You're not the norm, to be honest. As far as leaders, I do a lot of coaching and leadership training with C-level executives. And the one thing that I can tell you, I hear often is, "Oh, I hate managing, and I hate having meetings. Why do I have to communicate? Handhold. I hired great people, so they know what to do, and they know that I appreciate them." And I'm like, it's not the way it works.
right.
I know that in a perfect world, everybody would just be on text and Slack and never, but that's not a perfect world, right? Because we're all in relationship built businesses. We're friends, we're humans, we're moms, we're sisters,
Yep.
we're a lot of things outside of work. Work takes up a lot of our time, but it's one of those things where I think we underestimate. Again, people roll their eyes at the word culture. All right, okay, well, you can call it what you will, but at the end of the day, when one of my team has a sick child that needs to stay home, that's important, right? That's important for me to know and to be supportive, because that person gives me their all when they are there, but they are not. It's not 100%
Right.
asset book or XYZ company. It is, we're human beings at the end of the day, and that relationship aspect and appreciating people. It's wonderful that you give them perks to the gym, lovely, and
Yeah.
discounted air. But at the end of the perks are not culture. You need to realize that you're the team, you build a space that's safe
Yep.
where they can speak about. So when you said, you want to hear the criticism, most leaders don't say that. right? Most leaders don't ask that. And I made it a habit like many decades ago. And yes, I'm saying decades, so that shows you that I color my
Yeah.
hair, to cover a lot of age, right? But the bottom line is I made it a habit. I would have one-on-ones with my team, whether it's a team of 5 or 50,
Right.
and I would ask them, what can I do better? And at first you would get the reaction of, is this a trick question? Am I being set up now? But I really genuinely wanted, when I say I have an open door policy, right?
Yeah.
And you can tell me anything. You have to encourage that. You have to take the steps to be able to encourage that type of communication in that culture in which they won't be punished
Right.
if, you're not going to react in a negative way. You have to hear it. Self-awareness is, I think it's critical in being a
For
good
sure.
leader and building, solid companies.
Yeah, you're so right. We I don't know if you saw my rant on LinkedIn recently. I don't tend to rant on LinkedIn ever, but I had a
About the thank
moment.
yous.
Yes, I had a
Yeah.
moment, Marwa. I had a moment where I'm like, man, we had delivered something, in my business, it's like we need everything yesterday and we need it for half of what it's going to cost. And um, we have 72 people here that need to have an opinion. And that's cool. Like I got into this role because I love a good challenge and I think my whole team does and we rock through those type of things every day, but it is important, if you want to maintain a culture, it's one thing for your leader to say thank you, but it's
Mhm.
nice to hear it from your clients too. So I think it's
Absolutely.
it's hard to maintain a culture if you have clients who are forgetting to be appreciative too. Now, I need to caveat this by saying 90% of my clients are lovely and they say thank you, but it takes just a handful of them to really like rock the team, you know?
So to that end, I wholeheartedly agree with you, and not only agree with you, but have experienced that as well, right? Being in the SaaS business, we have clients, we have teams. One thing that is non-negotiable for me is coming after my team in any way or shape or form. I will always be on the front line to apologize, to fix it, to attempt to fix it, or
Right, me
and
too.
get the team on board. And I know you're the same, but sometimes the take for granted, it's human nature and it happens, and
Yeah.
clients can be at fault just as much as the rest of us. And I don't even mean fault, it's just you have a goal, we hired you, right, to help us achieve that goal, but then the lines of communication get blurred, and the expectations get shifted, right,
Yep.
and it's a moving target, and especially in the industry that you're in, and I
Yep.
know that it's always a moving target, right, and that's a challenge, and people don't stop. People, generally speaking, don't stop to say thank you, right?
Yeah.
So I would do spot bonuses on a random Wednesday of just $100 Amazon gift card. And people are like, "What's this for?" It's not Christmas or my birthday or anything. And it's like, it's just a thank you.
Yeah.
I know I say it I make it a point to always thank the team, but a little goes a long way.
Yep.
The appreciation. And then I've also been thanked by one of my key, team members for making her cry, which, sounds very odd in hindsight, right? But I made her get out of her comfort zone, and she hated public speaking. She was a science nerd, she'll tell you, evaluating petri dishes before she came to Assetbook most recently.
Yeah.
And then she presented and did, a demo of both systems, or solutions rather, and but she had a panic attack and she had a meltdown right before going on stage.
Oh my
And
gosh.
and and she thanked me for it later. She's like, "I don't think I would have ever done that and pushed myself if you hadn't pushed me." And I'm like, "I know you hated me at that moment. I know. And I fully recognize and understand and appreciate it, but I'm glad that you see it my way now. You are well outside of your comfort zone, but you are incredible at it." And so going back to just the teams, and I think we limit ourselves, right?
Yeah.
And I think that you have to be reminded by someone, and I love being that someone, you know, because it's important. It's not uncomfortable for me. It's not a nuisance. It's actually what gets me excited to get out of bed. Let's
Yeah.
build this thing, whatever this thing is.
Right.
You're an RIA, you want to double up. let's see what's working and what's not, and let's do this thing, right?
Right.
But we're humans.
Simple thank you goes a long
Yeah.
way. We have a
Yeah.
kudos channel at Intentionally. It's my favorite thing. It's my
Mhm.
favorite thing we do. Everybody shows gratitude to their team members, and I love it. I absolutely love it. Like, that's what gets my blood boiling when I see, like, and we also have a channel that's for like help. I need quick help. Is anybody around? And
Right.
I watch that channel. I pay attention. Like, who is willing to like take a minute and help someone? And
Right.
it's the little things for sure. It's for
And
sure.
do you feel like people are engaged, and they're
Yeah.
actively using it? It's not a
Yeah, I definitely
okay.
do. I think I've got a group of people here that are impressively helpful to each other. And I think that that's one of the first things that people see when they come on here is that anybody will jump in and help them if they need it. I try to make sure that that's the case. Um, and one other thing I'll just tell you about the thank yous is I've gotten in the habit of if a client forgets to say it, I get in the email and I'm like, hey, Kristen, that looks amazing. Awesome job pulling that off. And then all of a
Mhm.
sudden you're like, oh, you see they follow up with, oh my God, thank you. That's so great.
The
So
trigger reaction.
yeah. And I think part of it is like, and I look back on my prior life, my prior self, and I ask myself, was that me? And it might have been. So it's also like a good reminder to like treat people how, like step back and make sure that it's goes
Absolutely. You
both
get
ways.
thrown in different directions on a daily basis. So it's easy to lose sight, right? But
Yeah.
you have to take a moment for yourself to step back and say, hey, this is what's important. These are the people that are doing this with me. And,
Right.
and I need my clients to see this as well. And that's a brilliant way of doing it, right? It's pointing it out and, oh, thanks for the reminder. Yes.
Yeah.
Melissa, Kristen, Jennifer, Tina, thank you for doing an amazing job. I meant to do that, right?
Yeah, it's funny. Okay, before we get to your don't do that, give everybody just like you've stepped out of the industry for a hot second. For everybody that's listening, Marwa is consulting currently, helping leaders become their best selves and amongst many other things. But she's also stepped out of the industry for a second. You heard her say that she's people specific and not industry specific. So give us a little glimpse into this amazing project that you're working on.
So I'll tell you that I am the step out of the box, or if that's even a statement to make, right? I love to dance. So I'm hippity hop here and hippity hop there,
Yeah.
like I mentioned earlier with the different industries. So to me, getting into something that I've never been in is equally exciting and a different challenge
Yeah.
in different capacities. So yes, I have been dabbling for. It started off as a passion project, and thankfully, I'm married to a very, very patient man who happens to also be great at coding. So I use my resources to my benefit. Like
Yes, you
it's
do.
what you got, right? He's not in my backyard. He's literally 2 rooms away.
Yeah.
So I feel very strongly about doing things for the greater good. Small businesses need support, specifically restaurants. They don't have a marketing arm. I think I mentioned this to you. It started to break my heart. We're in Fort Lauderdale, but we also have a house in Delaware, so we kind of bounce back and forth. You drive through these shopping centers or down a popular street, and you see all these local businesses that have shut down.
Yeah.
And most of the time, it's lack of visibility, it's lack of engagement. They can't get new traffic in, the people that know. So, without giving a lot of detail, the new business that I am focused on helping for the time being
Mm-hmm.
is it's something I'm extremely excited about, but it's going to help. It's going to solve the problem that you and Steve probably have of, hey, what are we doing for dinner tonight? Right? Where should we go?
Every
What's
night of my
happening?
life.
Right? And I'm nearly certain that most of us out there go through that, right? If not everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Gen Z and the millennials, like they don't want to be bothered with going to Google and trying to figure out. They usually jump in their car, figure out what's hot as they
Right.
do a drive by, or they're relying on Instagram or Facebook or TikTok, and the mom and pop shops can't support that, right? Most of the time, just keeping up that social media aspect it's an individual that needs to be full time. So we're solving for that. We're solving for all of the things that are annoying to us as the patrons that want to find a place to go and you didn't tell me about it. And for the restaurants that don't want or can't spend, to get big marketing firms on board. And even if it's temporary, I've spoken to a lot of small business owners. Well, we hired XYZ company. Well, they put your stock photos on Instagram and then they left. And get restaurants are an engagement ongoing. Happy hours. People always go to happy hours, right? But do you know where to go and what's the new vibe is, as the Gen Zers call it, right? So,
Very cool.
Yes, I am very excited about it. I have spoken to a few RAAs that I may do some consulting work for, because again, if you throw the challenge of we are trying to grow and throw in the word aggressively grow, those are the things that get me excited, gets my wheels turning.
Awesome. All right, well, you heard it here first, folks. And when she's ready to launch this business and tell us more, we're going to have her back. I bet you there's a lot of RAs out there who would love an advertising opportunity on that app when
well,
you
it's called
launch it.
Forked Up. I will share that. And this is the first platform that I am verbally saying this out loud. So yes, now it's in recorded form, but Forked Up is the name. We have locked it in.
That's amazing.
And it's going to be really cool.
Very cool. Well, congrats.
Thank you.
Okay, lady, here we go. And I can only brace myself for what you're going to say. We know the premise of this show is that we learn better from our mistakes, right? And I think we all have made enough of them to have something to talk about here. So what are we not doing today?
So I'm going to keep it G-rated, right? Or PG rated.
PG's good. PG's good.
Right. Although what I do say personally to, friends like you, it's not a terrible statement, but I'll just keep it polished, right? We got to get out of our own way. Stop living in a bubble. You are not everything to everyone, right? As a leader.
Yep.
Don't be the smartest person in that echo chamber, right? Because we don't win that way. For me, again, healthy habits of, if you want to build a phenomenal team, and I don't care what industry or company you're trying to scale, if you don't take the time to embrace and appreciate and embrace your shortcomings, right? So it's, what can I do better? You need to ask that question, but you need to also be prepared for the answer and be okay with it, right? Don't punish people. I hired 4 people from a company, I won't mention the name, that all had the same common themes in the interviews, and they hadn't spoken to each other, but saying we would be asked, to give feedback or opinions, and then we were pretty much crucified for it. It was, why did you say that? That's not what we asked you for. You have to create an environment that's comfortable and build trust with your team so that you can see the things that are, we all have blind spots. And if we aren't relying on that team to be able to comfortably say, hey, Cal, I want to talk to you. I caught something that I think you need to be aware of. Yeah. And you accept that feedback. And I know you are one of those leaders, but I don't think enough leaders do that, right? They don't solicit the bad. They solicit the good, or they are happy celebrating when you're told that you're wonderful and you're great and you're growing. But with that comes a lot of things. You don't want to be the person that they're talking about in the meeting rooms, whether it's virtual or physical, does not matter. Be the person that, they're including you in that conversation and saying, hey, this is what we need to do to get better.
Yeah. So I feel like I love this show because it makes me do a lot of self-reflection. Right? So I have a chief of staff, Lisa DeCanzio, who has been with me since, so E-Money, Orion, and now here. We go way back. We were like babies when we started together. And she is magnetic. And she is such a good she's such a good sounding board for me because our team very much trusts her. And they talk to her. And then she and I, we did this on Friday. We went out, we had lunch together, and we said, all right, here's the things we have to tackle. And she lays them on me. And what I love about that is, like, she's a good barrier from the noise versus the things that need to be fixed.
Right.
Because I think that that's hard too, like figuring out, like, what is something that we have to I have to do better or we have to do better versus what is complaining for the sake of complaining. So like,
Right.
so how do you hash through that? Because thank God for her, Lisa, I hope you are listening to this. I'm so appreciative because I think she does a phenomenal job of that for me. She's like, these things are not worth talking about. These are the things that we have to tackle, you know?
One of the best feedback sessions I had with one of the teams that I worked with is when they repeated to me, well, one of the things that you've always said is don't come to me with a problem without a proposed solution,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
You're not expected to figure it out on your own. But if you're going to come throw a problem at me, you're telling me that you want to stay in the individual contributor category, which there's nothing wrong with that, right? But
Right.
if you're telling me that I want a path to grow into a management role, I want to be a seat at the table at some point, then you cannot and will not come to me and put the problem on me without your proposed solution, because that is the difference between a leader and an individual contributor. And again, right, wrong, or indifferent, there is no right or wrong. It's what people want for their careers.
Right.
But you have that right with your team as well. And I've had individual conversations with them, and the benefit of working directly with them, you've built that culture. And again, leaders, I can't express it enough. It might sound redundant or lip service. It's not. It's not.
Yeah.
Have the conversations that are uncomfortable. More times than not, it will pay its weight in gold.
You know, it's so funny. So I had Jason Early from Riser on. I don't know if you know Jason. He has a new technology to help advisors serve business owners, but his don't do that was don't avoid the hard conversations.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I thought that was so good. But what I liked about it more, which aligns to what you just said, is he said always assume positive intent. Like if you're going to have those conversations and you're going to have open conversations, like always assume that it's coming from a good place. And that hit me like a ton of bricks. Like that is just so smart to communicate to your team that like, hey, we're going to hash out the hard stuff, but it's always like coming from a good place because we want to make your life better. We want to make your job better. We want to make our clients better. So I feel like I took a lot from just that sentence.
Well, and you have to look at it that way, because my perspective has always been you're still here with us, with me, right? There are plenty of employers out there and plenty of competition out there. And if it doesn't happen tomorrow, it'll happen next month.
Right.
So for me, I don't take it as it's coming from an attack or a place of ill will. It is to benefit all, and that's how leaders should look at this. They're still with you. If you were, or their experience has been miserable so far, they will leave. Everyone has the flexibility and freedom to leave. If they are coming to you, then be open to what they have to say.
Yeah.
Right. And make it
That's great.
collaborative.
Right. All right. So everybody that's listening, Marwa has hit us with one that we all need to think about, and that's asking for feedback and taking the feedback and creating a culture where people feel comfortable in giving feedback. So we'll give us let's make our parting talk about leaders who are sitting on this line right now and they're thinking to themselves, oh shit, I do not have a culture where my people can talk to me. I am likely not looking in the mirror on a daily basis and asking myself what I can do better. Like, what's your advice to those people? Like, how are you coaching executives to get better at this?
Well, number one, they need to call me or text me.
Call
Actually,
Marwa.
they'll probably
Yes.
get a
Yeah.
faster response on text, right?
Yeah.
I'm a good time. Like, we're going to have a real conversation. I don't come in it from hey, here's what you're doing wrong. Like, nobody wants
Right.
to be told what they're doing wrong, right? And I do it on a daily basis, have the conversation with myself, and then I annoy myself. Like, nobody wants to hear about what they're doing wrong. Here's how we can do things different, right? And take yourself out of the things. Listen, you built a phenomenal rocket. That doesn't mean you need to be the one flying it. That is my mantra in life. There are phenomenal founders out there that do a great job. They don't want the CEO role. They don't want to have to manage and be operational and be strategic and tactical at the same time. They want to build, they want to execute, and that is perfectly fine. Just recognize that, right? Recognize that there are individuals out there that are built for things that you are not, or equipped for that you are not, and that is okay. But you need to recognize that, and the self-awareness that's everything. And I think that we challenge ourselves with putting our noses outside of the sandbox and saying, like, what do we need to do different? So not just call me, right? There's an amazing slew of
Call her.
consultants out there. That was a
Call
joke,
her.
right? But if you really want to move quickly, I am, a very aggressive approach individual, lack of patience, and just wanting to see something phenomenal tomorrow instead of in 2 years or, next week. That's who I am. I'm not everyone's cup of tea for that reason, right? But
Yeah.
it always comes from a great place.
Yeah.
And so I think my advice to leaders is just take a step back and think about it. Are you doing what you love? I can personally say that 97% of any role that I have been in, and I'm a 3-time CEO exit. I've exited billion-dollar firms and everything in between. I've loved every single one of the roles that I've had. And I know that not everyone can say that. I am very fortunate and thankful. I have loved every single adventure, if you will.
Yeah.
And I've learned a lot from it. So just make sure you love what you do. If you're not loving it, then let's change it up.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, listeners. So you're creating a culture where you can accept solid feedback and you can learn from it. And if you can't, you need to call Marwa.
Yep.
And Marwa, we're going to take this offline because I've taken a long enough of your time. But I want to know, guys, I'm going to pick her brain after this on the 360 interview where you get anonymous feedback. We're not going to do that on here, but I think that is terrible. But that's a conversation for another day.
We might have to have a part 2 on this.
I know, we might have to have a part 2 on this.
I have lots to say about that.
I know. We should have hit that earlier. All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining, Marwa. It's always great to talk to you. Thanks for being my sounding board all the time.
Amazing.
I'll talk to you soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
Thanks so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed today's show, subscribe to be notified when new episodes become available. And please consider giving us a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify. This podcast is sponsored by Intentionally, a financial services growth engine design consultancy and agency. If you want to learn more, please email me at kelly@growintentionally.com. Thank you again for listening, and check back to hear what we're not doing next.
The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of Kelly Waltrich. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only.